一心無浄土、志願不満足、政府上昇学、我を無量行、不意大聖衆、不採小貧具、政府上昇学、我史上仏道、幼少長寿法、空教未正門、政府上昇学、利欲人少年、上映修凡行、四愚無浄土、一生天人師、人力縁大公、不生無才道、少女三苦名、交際集約難、回避地営言、滅死根無安、閉塞小悪道、通達全修門、高僧上満足、異様老寺法、日月修十期、天候音符言、一周解放像、公正功徳法、上大集中、説法四苦、供養一切仏、具足修徳本、元年失上慢、得意三概要、如仏無下智、通達未不詳、願学営力、教師最小尊、志願役効果、大仙王感動、国小天人、東内妙慶、南蛮談部、南蛮談部、南蛮談部、南蛮談部、南蛮談部、南蛮談部、願にし功徳、平等性際、道本菩提心、往生安楽南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀、南無阿弥陀、南無阿弥陀、南無阿弥陀、南無阿弥陀。
The Jodo Shinshu Creed. Entrusting the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed through the journey of life with strength and joy. Revering the light of the Buddha, reflecting upon my imperfect self, I shall strive to live a life of gratitude. Following the teachings of the Buddha, discerning the right path, I shall spread the true Dharma. Rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha, respecting and aiding one another, I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual service, and thank you for joining us today. Please join me in Gassho for a reading from the collected works of Shinran. The right Dharma surpasses all things of the world. Observance of the precepts and seated meditation are called the right Dharma. Only those who have observed the precepts without fault have now come to hear the right Dharma. Those of evil, arrogance, the hindrance of passions and indolence, will have difficulty entrusting themselves to this Dharma. But those who have encountered Buddhas in previous lives will listen joyfully to the teachings of the world-honored one. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida. So today, we dedicate our service to those who have gone before us to the Pure Land of perfect peace during this month and years gone by. We remember our friends, our family, and our Dharma ancestors with warmth and happiness. By keeping the memories of our loved ones alive, we can conceivably better understand ourselves. The other day, my little sister, who's a staunch Southern Baptist, and I were talking about all of the woes in the world today. We talked a little bit about politics, which got us nowhere. And then she stated that if we all followed the Ten Commandments, the world would be a much nicer place. She listed the commandments for me, which she feels come directly from God. You shall have no other gods. You shall make no idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord in vain. You should not commit murder, commit adultery, steal, bear false witness, covet. In addition, you should honor your father and mother and honor the Sabbath. And then she asks, she says, do Buddhists follow these 10 commandments? And I pondered for a minute and I explained that we do not have commandments, but we have general regulatory rules of behavior called the precepts. Now, there are 227 precepts for Theravada monks and 311 for Theravada nuns. But traditionally, the first 5 of these precepts are practiced by Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. And they are refrain from killing, refrain from stealing, refrain from lying, slandering, gossiping, and spreading rumors, refrain from sexual misconduct, and refrain from taking intoxicants. So then she asks, if not from God, where do these rules or these precepts come from? So I decided to relate the following story for her, titled The Goat That Laughed and Wept, one of the Jataka tales. This story is about an age-old tradition of the ritual sacrifice of animals in India and as practiced in the pre-Christian Abrahamic religions. The concept of ritual sacrifice to appease certain deities has been prevalent since time immemorial. So here's the story. One day while the Buddha was staying at Jetavana, some monastics asked him if there was any benefit to sacrificing goats, sheep, and other animals as offerings for departed relatives. No, monastics, replied the Buddha, no good ever comes from taking life, not even when it is for the purpose of providing a feast for the dead. Then he told this story of the past. He said, long ago, when Brahmadatta was reigning in Banarsi, a Brahmin decided to offer a feast for the dead, so he went out and bought a goat to sacrifice. He then said, my boys, to his students, he said, take this goat down to the river, bathe it, brush it, hang a garland around its neck, give it some grain to eat, and bring it back. Yes, sir, they replied, and led the goat to the river. While they were grooming it, the goat started to laugh with a sound kind of like a pot smashing, kind of a cackle, I suppose. Then just as strangely, it started to weep, started crying. The young students were amazed at this behavior, and they said, why do you suddenly laugh? They asked the goat. And then why do you now cry loudly? The goat said, "Repeat your question when we get back to your teacher." The students hurriedly took the goat back to their master and told him what had happened at the river. Hearing the story, the master himself asked the goat why it had laughed and then why it had cried. "In times past, Brahman," the goat began, "I was a Brahman who taught the Vedas just like you. I too sacrificed a goat as an offering for a feast for the dead. Because of killing that single goat, I have had my head cut off 499 times. I laughed aloud when I realized that this was my last birth as an animal to be sacrificed, and today I will be freed from my misery. But on the other hand, I cried when I realized that because of killing me, you also may be doomed to lose your head 500 times. And it was out of pity for you that I cried." "Well, goat," said the Brahmin, "in that case, I'm going to spare you. I'm not going to kill you." "Brahmin," explained the goat, "whether or not you kill me, I cannot escape death today." "Don't worry," the Brahmin assured the goat, "I'll guard you." "You don't understand," the goat told him. "Your protection is weak. The force of my misdeed is very strong. The karma of killing is very strong." The Brahma united the goat, or rather the Brahma untied the goat. The Brahma untied the goat and said to his students, "Don't allow anyone to harm this goat." They obediently followed the animal to protect it. After the goat was freed, it began to go about grazing and eating. And it stretched out its neck to reach some leaves on a bush growing near the top of a large rock. At that very instant, a lightning bolt hit the rock, breaking off a sharp piece of the stone, which flew through the air and neatly cut off the goat's head. A crowd of people gathered around the dead goat and began to talk excitedly about the amazing accident they had just witnessed. A tree deva, this is one of the highest gods, or it could be just a simple tree spirit, had observed everything from the goat's purchase to its dramatic death, and drawing a lesson from the incident, the tree deva admonished the crowd. If people only knew that the result would be rebirth into sorrow, they would cease from taking life. A horrible doom awaits one who slays. So with this explanation of the law of karma, the deva instilled in the listeners the fear of their own downfall. The people were so frightened that they completely gave up the practice of animal sacrifices. The deva further instructed the people in the precepts and urged them to do good. Eventually the deva passed away. For several generations after that, people remained faithful to the precepts and spent their lives in charity and meritorious works, so that many were reborn in the heavens. And then the Buddha ended his lesson and identified the rebirth by saying, "In those days, I, the Bodhisattva, was that deva." So even though upholding the precepts has nothing to do with our birth in the Pure Land of Amida Buddha, they're still considered to be a condensed form of Buddhist ethical practice. And they're often compared with the Ten Commandments of Christianity. However, the precepts are different in two major respects. First, they are to be taken as recommendations, not commandments. Second, it is the overall spirit of the precepts, not the text that counts. So in closing, please join me again in Gassho for readings from the collected works of Shinran. The right Dharma surpasses all things of the world. Observance of the precepts and meditation are called the right Dharma, but attainment of Buddhahood through the Nimbutsu is the true essence of the teaching. Doctrines that do not accept the Buddha's words are non-Buddhist ways. Views that reject the law of cause and effect are nihilistic. Rare is it to obtain human life, and difficult to encounter a Buddha's appearance in the world. Hard is it to attain the wisdom of entrusting. Should you meet with and hear this teaching, pursue it with diligence. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Again, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.
See the light.